and welcome to Here Be Monsters, where today I'm going to be drawing and talking about a Stan Winston beastie. No, it's not the Alien Queen, the Predator, or even Pumpkinhead. Yet. Today, I'm going to be talking about Peter Hyams' 1997 feature, The Relic. Based on a novel of the same name by Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child, The Relic is set in the Chicago Museum of Natural History, and features a monster named Cthulhu going around eating people's brains to get at the tasty hypothalamus. So, let's get the biggest issue out of the way first. This film is dark. Not psychologically dark, not thematically dark, it's dark. Like, the screen is mostly black in night shots or when the lights go out. During one scene set in the sewers under the museum, it felt like I was listening to a radio play. You can barely see anything. I've heard this was intentional on the director's part, but it was still supposed to be visible. Apparently something went wrong in the cinematic release where you can see what it was meant to look like, and the home video conversion. The copy I've got on DVD is presumably taken from said conversion, and it's still too dark. The Blu-ray is meant to have corrected this issue, but it's still not an exact match for the original print. That out of the way, the pace of the film isn't slow so much as it's methodical. It doesn't race towards showing off the monster, instead it builds up the tension. There's a great scene where Penelope Ann Miller is walking through an exhibit based around superstition and mythology at night, pursued by the still unseen monster. It's not as good as the kitchen sequence from Jurassic Park, but I can see what it was going for. If you go in expecting tooth and claw from the get-go, you're going to be disappointed. For the majority of first half, it feels like it's pretending to be a murder mystery, which wouldn't be a bad thing, if the film didn't show a chuffing great monster arm grabbing the first victim. There's a police investigation which goes on for a lot of the early part, and there is an overuse of the phrase human hypothalamus. Really, they use it all the time. At one point it was said about like 3 or 4 times in succession in one scene, and it really gets distracting. By the time they start revealing the monster towards the end of the second act, I found myself grinding my teeth at every mention. One thing I do like is the way the restoration of the stone relic, yeah, probably the one the title refers to, is used before the reveal of Cthulhu. All throughout the film we keep cutting back to it in various states of repair, getting more complete as we get closer to the reveal. And as for the reveal, it's ruined by the darkness. You see the silhouette and some of the reflections from the scales, but that's about it. Everything's so obscured it barely registers. There's some minor editing issues, although I feel that if I could see it how it was supposed to be seen, it'd be fine. There's a second reveal where Cthulhu rampages through a group of exhibition guests, and that fares better. We see more of it, but again the screen is too dark to make anything out clearly. Which is a shame, because like a lot of Stan Winston creations, it looks amazing. Using a blend of practical creature effects for the close-ups and CGI for the wider shots, it really makes it seem like Cthulhu could be a real animal. Some of the CG does look a little bit ropey, but then it was 1997. The creature is a mishmash of various animals, with a leonine body covered in reptilian scales and hair. If you look long enough, you can probably guess every animal used in the design and, in-universe, the genetic makeup. There's subtle human elements, particularly in the shoulders, which give a nice hint of the origin of it. The best part, though, is the head. Again, part lizard, part big cat, and part spider. The mandibles on the front alongside the slightly angled eye give it a truly inhuman look and really drive home the chimeric design of the whole thing. Another thing I really liked was the sound design. Unlike most monster noises which just settle on a roar and call it a day, Cthulhu's got one hell of an asthmatic wheeze as well. Going back to what I said about tension earlier in one scene, the wheezing added another level to it and really helped. It also added something a bit more to the character. Instead of being a simple thing which just goes rawr, it added another dimension to the beast and made for some really interesting scenes which didn't have an unusually large thing somehow creeping up completely silent on a victim. Back to the film, most of the acting in the script is fine. There's a couple of odd lines, one guy being called a gerbil as an insult, and that whole human hypothalamus thing I mentioned earlier, but nothing which outright makes the film lesser. Aside from a couple of characters who just seem to be antagonistic for the sake of it, the performances are also pretty good. Penelope Ann Miller is great as the skeptical lead Dr. Margot Green, and is believable holding her own against Cthulhu and Tom Sizemore's Lieutenant DaGosta. I enjoyed the writing for the most part. Aside from the previously mentioned points, there wasn't much to complain about. They justified Cthulhu's existence and monstrous MO pretty well, and the entire thing felt believable. My only other criticism is for how for a lot of the first and second acts they go about pretending the whole thing's a murder mystery rather than an out-and-out monster movie. It's not a big issue to me, but I wasn't expecting them to play it for as long as they did. Overall, it's a solid film. Despite that one major technical issue, it does its job as a monster movie. How it matches up to the book I can't say because I haven't read it, but I enjoyed this one. If you like incredible monster designs, I'd recommend it. However, I will say be careful which copy you get. It's not the film's fault, but it just didn't endear it to me. so let's talk about the actual illustration. I am a lot happier with how this one turned out than the Minotaur one. I mean, the Minotaur one, first of all, I went with the inks, and that was a spur-of-the-moment decision, which, looking back, it made it look messy. This one, I am a lot happier with just the solid black and white lines. It makes it pop a bit more, and just makes the whole thing, it looks a lot cleaner. Once again, I used a mechanical pencil and about 5 Unipin fine liners, as well as a permanent marker just for me heavy blacks. The detail works a lot better when it's in the black and white here. I'm kind of pleased with how some of the slightly reptilian shadows popped on Cthulhu himself, and how the stone texture came out. I need to work on my backgrounds a lot, but honestly I've never done a jungle background, so I'm happy with this one. Finding the references for both of these was a lot easier than the Minotaur one as well. I mean, it's a Stan Winston monster, and I happen to have a book on Stan Winston's studios, so I pretty much looked at that for me, looking at the main shape of Cthulhu, and for the actual stone relic part of it, there is some decent photos on Google Images, I'll tell you that for nothing. I am also really glad I went for the jungle background as well. I remember early on when I was like thumbnailing the image, I really didn't want to do just like a basic bog standard, here's Cthulhu and that's it. But I did like the idea of him just perched on a rock looking regal. The film makes references to like how it's treated as a god in its native country, even though it is some sort of monster. And I kind of wanted to get that sort of look going on there. The whole big cat influence helped, figuring out the pose. And really I just started throwing the background in because it added more to it. The finished piece took about, I'm going to say 2.5 hours, probably in total to finish. And again, I ran out of memory to show the actual shading on the background and that, but I managed to get most of it. that was the Relic. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe and comment and everything else the algorithm demands of us. And I will hopefully see you next time.